but I think I'm getting used to it now. So we are live for a special show. Yeah, I hate when that happens. I think I'm reconnected now. Fuck. I hope that don't happen again. My Ethernet cord disconnected, but we back live now. So this is the Fred Hampton Leftists. We have a good friend, Meg Nader, on Killjoy. Meg on Twitter. How you doing, Meg?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Let me get the YouTube um, live tweeted out so people know that we are going. I know we already got one person on there now. Two. There we go. Nice. So let me tweet this out and then we can get started.
That me.
But I turn it over to RJ. How you feeling today, RJ?
I am feeling great, It's nice and sunny outside, nice day. So I'm great.
Casual.
It's a beautiful day outside.
How you feeling? How you feeling, JB?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day for a neighbor. I'm doing all right. Today is been a busy day for me. I've been doing some editing, and as well, I have another interview for the Sunday show for next Sunday for the
You been
FHL
killing it.
network. So that's going to be very interesting. We're uh, Stay tuned for tomorrow because we're going to be talking about the movement for no Ameren shutoffs that's going on in Illinois, as well as next week we're also going to be talking about the drug war and how it intersects with the Black community and how it affects us as leftists and the different policies that uh, we push for and how it can help us to be able to get ourselves away from uh, what's the word I want to look for? The oppression that we experience every day here in the United States. Um, I'm not that great with words right now. I just ate, so my blood pressure's kind of.
Yeah, this is why we just do. This is just a casual Saturday. We just
Yeah,
talking. I'm glad we
yeah,
got people enjoying.
hmm yeah.
Christine, thank you for watching. She said, "Yeah, we got a special show going today. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun." Austin
hmm
Jones, thanks for watching. He said the interview yesterday was awesome with Renee Johnson. Yeah, Renee Johnson. That was the first time I met her, and she's killed it yesterday. And her and RJ did a pretty good job on that. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that.
hmm
So, um, we have a few things we want to discuss today. I know we have the left is on fire right now, mostly because how things are going. I mean, we
hmm
have an administration that's doing the bare minimum, and people are trying to praise him from governing from the center right. I mean, if you look at the few things he did, people are like, oh, he passed his COVID relief package. I'm like, Trump did too. Like, this is the kind of stuff we expect someone empowered to do. I'm not going to praise someone for doing the bare minimum. But then you have things that are super popular, bipartisan support, for minimum wage increase, massively popular. They kill that. And I explained before, us at the Fred Hampton Leftists, we consider Medicare for all to be the compromise already. I mean, I want a fully nationalized healthcare
hmm
program in America. But Medicare for all is really good too because I wrote a good piece on why that is. But
hmm
I think nationalizing healthcare would be the way to go. So you guys understand when Joe Biden ran on a public option, I wasn't impressed because I don't like the public option. Public option is trash. I wrote about why that is as well. We can have a conversation about that as well. I mean, this is casual chat. So he already was running on something I always considered wasn't a good plan. And then he went to the right of that. So I don't know about you guys, but I haven't been dragged to the right.
Nope. If anything,
I've
I've been pushed further left.
after after Bernie Sanders dropped out, after I seen how the media establishment, the corporate establishment did everything they can to defeat our movement. I'm like, my conclusion I didn't come to that was, well, I guess I got to join them. The fuck? Imagine that being your mindset. That translates to what's going on right now, where you had a lot of people who are not only following the AOC route, they're apologizing for her, And what we're seeing, and this is a theory I flow out there. I mean, this is what happens when you have a politician who knows for a fact that she's going to have a large amount of supporters that support her and defend her no matter what she says or does. Same why Jay Morgenstern in the House. But so that's why everyone is now starting to be more vocal about what's happening with AOC, because we're seeing our movement being dragged to the right. And now there are people that actually defending funding corporate Democrats. How is that possible? George Pryor in the House.
Because AOC can do no wrong.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And I'm glad that people are starting to wake up to our side of politics and the politics of people who want to hold progressive politicians accountable. Because imagine if from day one we was holding AOC accountable the way a lot of members on the left are doing right now. I mean, from day one, we arguably wouldn't have seen this right now. What's your thoughts? Anyone want to chime in on that? I'm going to say discussing AOC.
Well, I mean, it's kind of goes along with some of the people who try to say, oh, well, you're not calling out Bernie the same way you're calling out AOC. It's like, well, right now, if you look at the difference between them, what is Bernie doing versus AOC? Bernie's pushing for a $15 minimum wage amendment to that bill after the parliamentarian told him to take it out. He's down in Alabama talking to Amazon workers and telling them to unionize. He's pushing for these things. I don't see AOC pushing for these things. That's the difference. If she were out there and using her platform as she is supposed to be doing and actually fighting for these things, I wouldn't be criticizing her. Like, I don't want to criticize her, but what am I supposed to do when she's not doing her job?
Yeah.
I agree, and it's not like AOC is dumb or anything. She's a very smart person. You know, anyone who enters in politics and can win a race, you're a smart person. I don't care what the public perception of you being dumb or an idiot. You won a race. You're smart. You know how this stuff works. So when you see an AOC type who now Kyle Kalinske even says has DC brain, is when you get so institutionalized that you believe, okay, I can start compartmentalizing and trying to figure out ways to get things done. You know, but the steps that AOC is making right now to push about progressive change and to lead the movement right now is very suspect. You know, you can't, like, for instance, you can't say that you don't take corporate PAC money and you take money that's mostly from grassroots organizations and from people make with small dollar donations, and then fund corporate Democrats. And it just doesn't mix up well. And I don't know what was promised to her by the establishment. I don't know what Mama Bear said, like, hey, if you give some to my people, we'll do you this X, Y, and Z. But even if you believe that, there's like plenty of times in previous encounters where the establishment promised them something and they didn't get done. Like, for instance, with the COVID relief bill, like Nancy Pelosi and the establishment said, hey, just back down for this. We'll give you the $15 minimum wage. And so it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's a drifting away from the original position that she's had. It is sad to see. And in comparison with Bernie, we now see why Bernie was we now see why he was an independent. And so I said in an interview yesterday that in order to be able to not assimilate completely, you have to disassociate yourself from those different elements that tend to pull people away from the left. Because we got to remember that the Democratic Party is a right-wing party. So you're essentially a left-wing person going into a right-wing party, and now you are assimilating through association to the right wing. And so that is dangerous, because now you're becoming more capitalistic, more pro-imperialistic. You start to, you know, you start to no longer see certain people have who you used to think was your enemy. Now you're starting to see them as friends, associates, and comrades because they're the ones who are telling you, "Oh, we're not your enemy. We're all fellow Americans, aren't we?" And it's like, yes, in a sense, when it comes to our citizenship, yeah, we are fellow Americans, but at the same time, you're actively trying to do things that will undermine the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for the rest of us. So, therefore, yes, in a sense, you still are an enemy, but they have seemed to have drifted or forgotten that. I don't like to say the term sellout
Mhm.
because that means a a hostile intention. I think if there was a drifting away, that's why I keep using that phrase because once you get in there and you get the $174,000 a year, and then you also start to go out to eat because with them because that's how you guys meet and talk over policy and all these different things, then you see how you start to veer from the original position that you had. So that's the reason why I think Bernie is still where he's at because number one, he's older. So guess what? He's going to stay within a certain parameters of who he is. He may veer left or right, once in a while, but not as much. For AOC, it's a lot different. She's more malleable. This is why they're not going after Bernie like they are after her, because they know they can't really do much with Bernie. But with AOC, they can mold her because they see a young Nancy
He
Pelosi and
only
they're
took
like,
one term.
yeah,
And that was the
yeah,
point that Jackie made. I'm like, damn, that's a good point. Because you said, at
yeah,
least with Bernie, with all disappointments with Bernie, he been in the
exactly.
game since the '80s, and he used to talk mad shit about U.S. foreign policy in South America. And I remember they used to write hit pieces on him in the '80s about they were used to like Bernie Sanders is a communist sympathizer because he used to speak up for Castro. He used to speak up for a lot of these uh, people that America considered to be communist enemies back in the day.
He
You
still
see,
does to an extent.
yeah, yeah, and when we call for him to be more aggressive on Venezuela and that kind of stuff, like that's the kind of Bernie I have in mind. But so when I criticize Bernie on that, he been in the game for a very very long time and being down, and now I think he got a different kind of strategy. But LC he only took her one term, and and the discussion that me and RJ been having was how this turns people off of electoral politics because we've been saying this for a long time. I know a lot of people in my crowd have, but I've been following chat on this discussion. I seen like there's like a new wave of people like, yo, I guess you motherfuckers was right. I guess there's no taking over the Democratic Party because they corrupt
Mhm.
in such an effective way. And once again, I attack it on this way because I could go more malicious if I want to, but I don't really feel the need to. So I always say they are just really effective at getting people who make $170,000 a year that they are doing the right thing. So they just tell LC like, yo, I promise. You have maybe centrist Democrats that talk to LC and tell her, I promise you, if you just work with us, you be able to help people in your area, constituents. We may not be able to tackle all the problems, but we be willing to be flexible with you. Meanwhile, they stab them in the back, and this is why they politically inept because they think the Democratic Party has their best interest in mind, but they don't. But they lull them into thinking that they are on their side. I had my tweet that was shown on Jimmy Dore where I was joking because I was like popping off when this ALC story was coming off. I ratioed the original tweet 3 times. Like literally, I had three
Yeah.
tweets that had more likes than the original sales story. Not to brag, but I had to mention that. So what I said, what I said, what my third tweet I said, I hope you guys realize um, Nancy Pelosi started out supporting universal health care and
Mhm.
having very progressive rhetoric. People don't understand. Like Nancy Pelosi in the '80s, she always was a sellout because she came from money and she was always a tough fundraiser, which comes to the story we're gonna cover next. another check that talk about the transformation because Nancy Pelosi she got her rise to the party because she was fundraising candidates in California and she became nationally famous because she became such an effective fundraiser for them. And now the story come out with AOC funding corporate Democrats. We'll get
But
right back to that here in a very second. But back in the day, Nancy Pelosi, she supported universal health care. And then back then when we were much more socially conservative, she came out in public favor of gay marriage and she showed up at the LGBTQ rallies. Once again, I got no love for Nancy Pelosi. All you guys know that. But I'm bringing that up. So back then, people were like, damn, Nancy Pelosi pretty progressive. So I'm not saying that AOC is going to turn to Nancy Pelosi, but that's a warning. That's a harsh warning that if we don't steer her back on the right path, things are going to get really, really disgusting here very soon. Go ahead, RJ. I think you had something you want to chime in with,
yeah, I was
if you
gonna say
remember.
too that AOC back in that day, she was actually a fundraiser for a congressional candidate before her. So the person who took before the person before her, she was the fundraiser for that candidate in California. And when that person died, they said, "Hey, we're not gonna let you go. You have a lot of money." So they made her the representative for that district in California. And ever since then, she's been the top fundraiser for like Jerry Nadler. Um, Adam Schiff, some of these like disgusting Democrats that are her henchmen. The reason why they're there is because, hey, I'm not going to step out of line because I got the cash flowing. And I guess I want to bring a question to the panel because now it's kind of similar. So we know how Nancy Pelosi operates. She gives cash out to corrupt people like Adam Schiff, Jerry Nadler, some of the most like disgusting Democrats you don't like. But I feel like AOC is trying to do the same strategy that Nancy Pelosi is doing because she is the prodigy to Mama Bear in terms of how she orchestrates politically. So my question to you guys is, how do we prevent her from going down that route? We've tried, telling her, "Hey, this strategy is wrong," and giving her valid criticism, and then it's considered violence on her end. Or we can go malicious, like Nick has said we probably shouldn't do, but then we're smeared as the aggressive um, people who are unprofessional. So, what is the correct route to go about to not only critique those who may be aligned with us on certain policies, but to make sure they go in a direction that best fits the left movement overall?
I honestly think there's really not much we can do. I hate to be the morbid one, but it's like it's kind of almost like a waste on her to do anything else. It's like, okay, so what would be the next best option? Okay, you know, feet in the streets, basically. I mean, that's the only thing I can really think of. I mean, we've been talking about general strike and things like that. I mean, I only see people like AOC and Bernie Sanders as what we call a sympathetic voice in government,
Mm-hmm.
so that when we get our activist and organizing power structures, you know, to the way they're supposed to be, then you can have them come up to people like AOC and Bernie and say, "Look, I know you're a little bit more sympathetic to us, so this is what we want." Because you cannot expect activism from a politician. Because once an activist becomes a politician, they are no longer an activist. And she has
Amen.
ceased being an activist, and now she is a politician. So we treat her as such.
What
It
about
kind of
also what about also being an organizer? Because you have some people who may
Mm-hmm,
defend her who are also leftists who are organizers. They say, well,
mm-hmm.
she's still advocating for progressive policies. She's
Yeah,
still donating to progressive organizations. So isn't she still useful as an organizer? So could you make the argument too that now that she's a politician, she's not really an organizer either, and could be antithetical to the movement? Can you explain that further, JB? I would love your comment on that.
um, she's still she's still someone who is sympathetic, but she is an organizer for the Democratic Party. We're just an organizer for leftist policy, no matter what party we are.
Mhm.
Amen.
So she would be as valuable as, say, if we put a Green Party candidate or an Independent Party candidate in office. They would become a politician. So she can still do organizing from her end on the inside, but she's an inside organizer. That's all she is. We
So
have to do it from the
Mhm.
outside.
so
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
you got anything
I,
else? So
I
I didn't want to cut you. I
wish,
didn't want to cut you off, Meg. But we can go
yeah,
Meg, then JB, and then I'll
Yeah.
chime in after
hmm
that.
yeah.
Mhm.
But
No, because
I
I think,
wish that I could though. We
yeah,
could though.
yeah, I think Jay makes a really good point of the idea that she is an inside organizer, and I definitely agree with that. And even I mean, Bernie made similar points when he was saying he would be organizer in chief, and you kind of see that in the interview that AOC gave to DSA. And just quick caveat of that is like read the actual interview, not just Eric London's critique of the interview, because he did take things out of context. Um, but I mean, most of the critique is correct, I think. And she makes very clear in that interview of her saying, well, once I got to Congress, I learned about all these new tools that I could use, not just be an activist. So it does seem she started to kind of drift towards those means and those tactics instead of using her wits as she learned as activist. And you saw that from the moment she got to Congress of sitting in front of Nancy Pelosi's office, but you haven't seen her do that since. So it's become very clear that that's where she's been drifting. Is okay, we need to use these procedural arguments,
Yeah,
these
they
tools of
convinced her.
Congress, and but that's one of the problems. Like they absolutely can use it against her. It's like, okay, well, you were sent there to break the rules. That's why you were sent there.
It's
So
literally a fact
don't
that
follow
she.
the rules, break them.
It's literally just a fact. If you knew what she ran on, that she's not following what she ran on. She literally
Exactly.
said that she sees the value in someone being a one-term congressperson just to shake up the political game. How you should be
Hmm.
constantly calling out your own party, making them uncomfortable, and that's factually not what she's doing right now.
Hmm.
And I discussed before how I understand and I acknowledge the benefit of having an inside outside game where you have grassroots activists that push massive amount of pressure on the establishment, and you have the people on the inside who build relationships, but at the same time they want to twist the knife in order to get things done. The problem is we have an outside game that has been active, especially since the start of last summer, where we had massive George Floyd
Hmm.
protests that also formed into housing protesting and organization. I know Casey Tennis. I think we have a plan the next week to get out to protest some incoming evictions as well. So there's been a massive amount of push on the outside game in terms of challenging the establishment, especially this last year. My question is, where is the inside game at? Because you guys gotta understand how
I was just gonna ask that.
this is how the philosophy is supposed to work. The philosophy is supposed to work. The outside game cause ruckus, and the inside game is sympathetic to the outside game and help them pass their agenda. That is not what's happening right now. Period. Amen. If you look at
Yeah,
what
and
go ahead, RJ, and then Megan there can continue from there.
yeah, and so what I was gonna say is like if you look at history, me being the history person, ta-da, yeah. But if you look back in history, even under the FDR days, the Lyndon Johnson days, no way were these people progressive initially. They were progressive in their legacies over time. Let's be clear about that. But the whole theory of it, of the inside outside game is yes, you created an outside ruckus. There would be a politician that's smart enough to realize, hey, if I could bring their needs into reality, not only would benefit them, I have a guaranteed voter base for at least the next 40 years, and I will be a hero. I will never lose an election. Look at Lyndon Johnson. He won like 67% of the popular vote before it was broken by Barack Obama in 2008. That was 40 years of that record, and then it passed the civil rights legislation, passed Medicare, did all those type of things. Now let's fast forward to today. If you look at BLM, the Black Lives Matter protest movement this summer, these are the two strategies the establishment tried to do against us. One, they tried to throw Bernie out there, see, we need Medicare for all these stuff. And it's like, okay, Bernie, we get that. We're for that shit. You don't have to tell us that. So that didn't work. What worked then is when Barack Obama started using the liberal class against us. That's when
Yeah, that's
BLM
a good
movement,
point.
the the acceptance numbers started tanking because now liberals looked at the progressives as the ones that was the issue because Obama said, hey, we should cut that shit out. And, the NBA should stop protesting, and BLM, I don't like her defund slogan. So that's the last ditch effort. The Obama Trump card, we have to find a way to nuclearize that and get rid of it because that is what's killing us. Like, Obama is the end all be all for the Democratic Party. Who gives a fuck about Biden? Nobody gives a fuck. Even the establishment doesn't give a fuck about
He's a
Joe
puppet
Biden.
in the suit.
Exactly. Kamala right now is the institutional Trump card. But if all else fails, Barack Obama is waiting in the wing to take over. And so when he steps in, and no matter how we feel about him, he is still the most popular figure in the Democratic Party. We have to find a way to crush that. The same way Trump crushed the Bush dynasty and the Clinton dynasty, even though he ended up being just as corrupt and just as establishment as them, we have to try to find a way to break those dynasties. That's how we gain power.
You have anything you want to add on there, Meganator, and then we can push it to JB from there. And then I'll have a question that we can discuss, and then I have one more thing that I want to talk about regarding AOC, because there is a story that was pushed today, and I want to discuss about how fair this is and what my take on this. I read it a little bit. We can cover this together, but we will do the segment a little bit later on today. So if you're watching, stay tuned, and if you're enjoying the conversation so far, I appreciate the engagement. Please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Only ask because everyone on the left understands what YouTube and what the big tech is doing to independent leftist media. So the only way we grow is by word of mouth and by you actually seeing our content when released. Because I know from my YouTube channel, you literally can't find my videos unless you like hit the bell and that kind of stuff. So if you enjoy this content, that's how we grow. So anyway, sorry. I hope I didn't. Kill the topic too much, but I want to pass it to Meganator to get her thoughts, then to JB, and then I'm gonna move on to a few questions I see here in the chat.
Yeah, kind of picking up what RJ was just saying about FDR and Johnson. I mean, we all know the story about A. Philip Randolph going to FDR and him saying, okay, great, make me do it. And one of the big problems that I seem to be seeing is that they've misinterpreted the make me do it part of this, of just like you were saying, Nick, like, okay, yeah, we'll go out there and we'll say things and we'll be organizing, and we've been organizing, but it's your job to be pressuring too. It's your job to be fighting back. So when AOC doesn't, in the squad, when AOC and the squad don't, do force a vote and withhold their votes from Nancy Pelosi, when they don't withhold their votes in order to get $15 minimum wage into the COVID bill, when you see Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren making some stupid video saying, hey, call Joe Biden and tell him you want student debt relief. It's like, why aren't you doing those things?
Right.
That's your job. Like, yeah, we've been saying that forever, but that's part of your job. You should be lobbying Joe Biden. Like, what are you doing besides telling us to do those things? Like, you want us to make him do it, but why aren't you helping?
Good point. Anything you want to add on, JB?
I do, but you're not gonna. But a lot of people aren't gonna like it.
Nah, I remember when Ron was popping up. I was like, man, we're not about censoring people here. Take it or leave it.
All right. Okay.
Go, Jay.
Get their ass, Jay.
All right.
Get their ass,
All
Jay.
right. We watched MAGA do things that made their politicians fall in line. Maybe they were on to something. When you see how you have the Tea Party and MAGA, the way they operated, their politicians were scared of them. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that we have to be in a morbidly threatening way, but we have to get to a point where it's like, you know what? If you're not willing to fight, not just say things rhetorically, you're out. You're out, you're out. We're getting rid of you. We're going to replace you with somebody who can. Because the thing is that if you're gonna keep up this you know this show, where you're saying all the right things, but you're not actually fighting for it, that $176,000 a year you get is going to be gone. You're going to have to go back to the private sector, sweetie, because guess what? Our lives are on the line. It's like,
Yes.
what
Yes.
what about this do you not get? So we're going to have to be like them. If
Mm.
some of us socialists got to come out there with, while protesting, and we got to express our Second Amendment rights like the right does, to let them know, but like, hey, this we're going to express our rights in every way possible, not in a violent means, but just in a visual showing as far as optics. We got to let them know. And the thing is that civility is the tool of the oppressor. And so when they're going, oh, but you can't be critical of them. Hell yes, we can be critical of them.
Yep.
In fact, that is our duty. That is our job. Because guess what? If we don't, and they acquiesce, guess what? We die. Simple as that. Do you want to die? If not, criticize them. Push them to do their job. Because guess what? It is either your life or their seat. Which one matters more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of going off of that. I mean, there are two unfortunate realities about what Jay's saying. Is that one, because we're on the left, but it's going to get turned around on us. Doesn't matter what happens. Because, I mean, just look at how, the protests that happened at the state capitals because of COVID, how they brought guns and nothing happened to them. But then you look at what happened with BLM after George Floyd, and it was called riots, even though it was just protests most of the time. It's like, it doesn't matter what happens, they'll always spin it against the left. And the other unfortunate reality is the left is very weak right now. We're all divided. We can't. There are very few times where we can actually unite and fight together. And I don't know how to solve those two problems.
I think the issue with the left, just to add on to both of your points, and I'm gonna get to uh, JB's point after yours, is the reason why the left is so divided is because yes, we all have our own personal left-wing ideology we are for, but there's nothing, I would say, simplified that we all agree on. I think that's the biggest issue. Like if you look at the right, the Proud
Absolutely.
Boys, MAGA, some of these idiots, they have their own disagreements too. But when it's Armageddon, they're ready. Like you've seen the Capitol, you've seen Stop the Steal. They're all on the same page, and that's to your point, Meg, about why the left is so fractured. And to get to JB's point about, look, JB is right. If you're a lefty, air quote, in the House and the Senate, and you don't and you don't fight for those progressive policies, you should be primaried, or you should be heavily threatened. So if you are a person in the AOC's district and you want to run and replace her, go ahead and try to do it. You know, or at least if you soak up some of her poll numbers enough, use that as leverage against her to be more radical. So actually, we should be doing the same strategy we could do against establishment Democrats against ourselves to push ourselves to the left. And just to draw the distinction between lefties and righties in general, look at MAGA, for instance. Look how MAGA treated Steve King. When Steve King, see, MAGA sometimes, and at least with a lot of these Republicans, they have no problem being racist. They have a problem being caught, because when you're caught, the culture side, you lose all your committee assignments. So Steve King, the third in the Congress, he lost all his committee assignments, right? The Republican Party said, "Look, you're useless to us now. Get the fuck out." They kicked him out of Congress, and they primaried him. That person won, and then that person won the seat. So we on the left, whenever we find someone that's an issue with, look, you're done with us. It's like that Toy Story meme. I don't want to play with you anymore. You're gone, done. You have to kick them out and find someone else that is better. And they should fear us. And look at Jeff Flake. Look at Jeff Flake. He left in shame. Look at Paul Ryan, total fucking loser. Look at John Boehner. He had to. He at one point he said these Tea Party assholes were so annoying that he hated them more than Obama. And in fact,
That's how
so
that's how
much
you gotta make
so,
them be, right?
exactly, and in so much so that John Boehner did a stupid interview and a dumbass like movie with Obama on Vice. Like it's like, and just think about it. When Boehner first got there, like I am not with Obama, and then like 2 years later, okay, I mean, Obama's not that bad. That's the type of power the left should have in the political system where, and that's why we're being dragged to the right, because not only look, the culture war battle isn't enough, we need the actual political strength as well, and that's why the squad and House progressives and someone in the comments also earlier, we need to talk about Ro Khanna, because Ro
Yeah, I was
Khanna,
about to
oh
bring
my,
that up. I said I was about to bring up a question. That was what I was literally about to interject with. I appreciate anyone who left a question in the comments so far. I will try to get to them definitely before the end of the live stream. So stay tuned for that and more comments and questions we get. The more fun we can have on this live stream. But someone was asking about Ro Khanna. I guess I let RJ go first, and then I have my thing I want to talk about. Cause I think that is a good transition to what I want to discuss next as well, and then we can bring JB and Megan after that. But go ahead, RJ. You got anything you want to
okay, so let's get this out the way. Who the fuck said Ro Khanna was a leftist? And
add?
why the and why the fuck did he go on Bree Joy's podcast? And Bree Joy specifically asked him, well, Ro, um, what are you? Are you a socialist? Are you a progressive, leftist? And he's like, nah, I'm not. And I'm like, why the fuck are we
Meaning
claiming him
what?
then? Like, why are we claiming him? Like, and it's okay. And the thing about Ro Khanna is, which pisses me off, is if he does the same woke shit that Chuck Schumer does, is like, oh, we have to advocate for this, but he won't actually use his power. And I just love it when like other podcasters invite him on his show just to melly rock him. It's the same way that Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty bring on what's that guy Feldman just to punch him every episode. So that's what I think of when I think of Ro Khanna. Like, I'm pretty sure he's a nice person, nice guy. I'm pretty sure, yada yada yada. But a total shit politician, like one of the absolute worst. And that's kind of my feel about him because it's not enough to advocate for progressive policy. It's about how to use your power and every opportunity, from forced to vote, from getting Medicare for all on the floor, to just getting even stuff for the COVID relief packages. Just look at his votes, look at his statements and his votes on that. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're just a complete capitulating bullshitter to Nancy Pelosi. And of course, the young progressives that just got there, they're gonna look at him as a leader, and it's just like you're such a fucking loser. Like, why is Mark Pocan? And look, I'm pretty sure Pramila Jayapal as well, a nice person, so I don't get canceled. But it's like, why are these people in positions of power when they keep getting ran over by a truck by Nancy Pelosi? It's mind-boggling to me.
Like, why are you not exercising the power? Like, you're literally like Pramila Jayapal, the chairperson of the Progressive Caucus. Why are you not utilizing that power? Why aren't you pressuring Nancy Pelosi? Why not?
Ro Khanna is from Silicon Valley. That's a comment by Daniel. It's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people on the left need to acknowledge who Ro Khanna is. Because I am willing to acknowledge who Ro Khanna is. Ro Khanna is a guy who's really good on foreign policy, but he has horrible politics. And he's a capitalist. I mean, just like RJ just pointed out, you can't really expect much from capitalists. You can't expect much from Silicon Valley capitalists. Now, I will take the wins when I get them because he's good on foreign policy. But capitalists tend to be good on foreign policy. I mean, once again, like you can talk to a lot of right wing libertarians who's good on foreign policy. So when it comes to Ro Khanna, I keep my expectations to that level because I'm like, okay, you're just another capitalist who just so happen to be good on foreign policy. And my position when it comes to people who disagree with me on politics is I will always use you as a tool to pass and get my agenda accomplished in Washington. Like you guys, politicians, to me, especially ever since I've been radicalized, this past year or so, I acknowledge that they are nothing but tools. They are tools that we use to get our community taken care of. And the second they're not useful, we should criticize them so they become useful to us. And based on what I know from Ro Khanna, I'll continue to support him whenever he does something good, like trying to end the genocide in Yemen, trying to get us out of Afghanistan. But when I see his weakness, and when I see him and Pramila Jayapal consistently being weak towards the Democrat establishment, I'm like, okay, I'm not for this because there are a lot of inside chatter about Bernie campaign, why they lose, why they didn't have the proper strategy. There are a lot of discussions about Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal being two people that held him back because Ro Khanna at the very beginning of Bernie campaign, one thing that he said to get his endorsement, he said, okay, we can't go too negative on the Democratic Party. Once again, this was open. Like he openly said, like one, he was actually like one thing I support Bernie because I said in order for me to have my support, we can't go too negative on party. This and Pramila Jayapal, and I covered this on my show before as well. Jayapal played a big role in getting Bernie Sanders to drop out. She was leading one of the leaders, senior advisors that convinced Bernie to drop out. Because Bernie was one of the people that just listened to his team, like a lot of politicians did. And he listened to Ro Khanna when Ro Khanna like we can't go too hard on Democratic Party. We can because Ro Khanna philosophy. I mean, I gave Ro Khanna a fair trial, guys. I heard him speak on plenty of interviews. His philosophy is that he says we should just advocate for what we're for, but we still got to acknowledge that the Democratic Party is our best route, and we got to continue to prop them up. And now I was telling people I'm asking what your strategy is because a lot of people who are reflectively defending Biden and Democrats. So okay, even if I take your philosophy of electoral politics, where we got to reform the Democratic Party, how is what you're doing helpful? Someone please explain to me why pretending Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, and the Democratic establishment that we're supposed to defeat, how is propping them up and pretending that they're better than they are, how is that supposed to help us primary them? Because that's your strategy. Your strategy is keep fighting, take 15, 20 years to get enough people in the Democratic Party. By then, climate change is going to be, it'd be too late to effectively change that. So even going by your strategy, it doesn't make sense. So that's why I said when it comes to Ro Khanna, good on foreign policy, he can be good on economics, but he just got bad politics. It's just that simple, and you can't really expect much on him. So, do anyone got anything else you want to add on that in terms of Ro Khanna or Pramila? I guess we brought her up, but or anyone else in general? Anything you guys want to add on that? Let's see what
Just
anyone
to
else is
just
saying.
to bring it together about the strategy itself of like the squad and other House progressives are saying now, well, there's not that many of us, you have to vote more in. It's like, no, you don't. And so even if they, okay, so let's give them, I'm gonna try to give them the benefit of the doubt here. So let's just say that their strategy of electing more people in, the rules in the Senate and the House have changed since the 90s. See, all the way up to 1990, the committee chairs had a whole lot of power in which what bills would come to the floor of the House and the Senate, as well as the power you have in certain caucuses. After the DLSCC, the Democratic Leadership Council Committee, after Bill Clinton and the Clintons came into power, a lot
I
of
mean
that
DLC. Yeah,
DLC, sorry, I got that wrong. Thank you, Meg, for that. A
no
lot
worries.
of the power went from the committee chairs funneled to the actual leadership of the party, like the House Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader. So even if you do want to take that route of saying, okay, AOC could be the climate chair or whatever, or Pramila Jayapal, she could be like on the Health and Human Services Committee or whatever. Like these are probably aren't accurate committees. I'm saying I'm just
Mm-hmm.
rambling. But the point I'm making is okay, let's say they do become a chair of a committee, or like what Bernie is now. Bernie has to capitulate to Chuck Schumer. So even if he has the power to put the bill on the floor, which we give him credit for, but we can't necessarily guarantee that Chuck Schumer is going to back him up and force Democrats to actually vote for it with him. That's the problem we have right now on the left is that we're trying to and run institutionally in archaic rules before the 1990s when all the power is being transferred into party leadership. So when party leadership tells you, hey, just get more as many people as you can, we'll give you this, they're just selling you a whole bunch of bullshit. Because in the end, they have the final say. Back in those days, the whole point of having a party leader was like, okay, it's a balancing act. So you have this person from this committee. So there's like six big committee chairs in the entire House and the Senate. Your job as the party leader is to make sure all six of those chairs are happy. All the other members don't really fucking matter. Okay, if you have some dissenters, your job is to go to them and say, hey, this chair will give you this, shut the fuck up, basically. The difference now is all the power is in the party chairs. I mean, all the power is in party leadership. So the party chairs themselves are puppets. So that's the problem. That's why Nancy Pelosi has so much power. That's why Chuck Schumer has so much power. Well, at face value, he's weak as fuck, but he still has power because he gets Wall Street money. In the same way, that's why Joe Biden is so powerful now, because he actually controls the Senate. Chuck Schumer is his puppet now. So now you can't really expect to use those same tools prior to 1990s in today's political construct. So that was my little ramble about what progressives are doing wrong in this current political inside out strategy.
Anything
Yeah,
that you
kind
guys
of.
want to add, Meg? All right. So
Yeah,
Meg, and then JB can go, and then I'll take some more comments. I'll see here.
kind of going off of what RJ just said is if you look at Katie Porter, for instance, she was looking to get a waiver to be on the budget committee because she was doing like we've all seen her videos of what she was doing on the budget committee. Bringing that whiteboard in, basically telling them off and showing them the math of why they were wrong and showing us just how smart she is. Like she knows the budget, she understands finance, and or was it the budget committee or the finance committee? It's one of the two. But um, but then once it came back around to getting committees again, like everyone else got a waiver, she didn't because Maxine Waters didn't want her to have the waiver because of what she was doing in those committee hearings. They didn't want her showing up big corporate big CEOs and the financial people who were coming into these hearings because she was showing them up. And so Maxine Waters like, no, she's not getting the waiver. And I'm sure that also came from up high. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi and whoever else was up there were probably going to say like, Maxine, we got to do something about keeping Katie away from those CEOs.
Just to
So
add,
I'm,
So I want to chime in here with
yeah.
this comment before I lose it, and I want to give you guys thoughts on that quickly. Good comment from Xander. I see him leaving a lot of good comments here. He said, "Hopefully I didn't miss anything you said before, but I think I got a good chain here." He said, "The thing is, if you get elected to D.C., you suddenly start making $170,000 a year. You lose your material connections to the working class. The sense of urgency is reduced." That's kind of what I've been saying, haven't I? This is why I'm more willing to put pressure on these people that I like because I'm like, okay, I know you're comfortable. I know what that does. Anyway, he continues to say, you hang out and work with neoliberal corporatists the whole time. You get sucked into the black hole of the establishment, politics, and get brainworms because DC climate gradually consumes you. I think he got one more here. I think it's more complicated than that. Well, I think that's the one he just responded to somebody, but he was saying they have good intentions going in. That doesn't matter. You just lose touch with reality of the working people. And the more you work in that environment, the more you pour you in. That's what he was kind of saying at the end there. And I 100, I think that's a great analysis, great comment, Xander, because that's exactly kind of what I was saying as well earlier before. I'm not gonna tone police anybody. That's literally the exact opposite of what I stand for. So if you got harsher criticism of Bernie, AOC, and the squad, I definitely understand that. But I think more for strategy reasons more than anything, I take more of the human approach where I look at them as easily corruptible humans. I I gave this example before when Bernie was saying Joe Biden is his good friend. I legitimately think he believes that, like because they've been in the Senate for a long time, and Joe Biden, when he's talking to someone he deems his equal, we've seen many examples where Joe Biden talked to protesters and people who are at his rallies or any working class person, and he kind of have this air of elitism that I hate. But if Joe Biden sees you as equal, I think there's no doubt that he could be a very nice guy to be around. Hey Bernie, how the kids doing? Hey, let's grab some lunch, Bernie. Hey Bernie, good job on whatever. Like I could see him being like a very friendly guy. So I think over the years, Bernie like, yeah, I think Biden's a good guy at heart. I think he's gonna try, especially if I get in his ear. Yeah, he's gonna listen to me. Like it's just this human error. That's why I'm discussing, and this is why
So
AOC has kind of um, that was a giant miscalculation. We already see this miscalculation kind of bearing fruit. Do anyone got anything they want to add? Because I want to discuss this story that dropping that the right wing is gonna love. But I want to give you guys take on Xander's comment and kind of why. Anyone want to chime in on that before I move on?
Yeah.
it's
Go ahead, JB, and then we get Megan there.
mhm.
Okay. So you know, I think of it like this: they they see their friendship as an ace in the hole when it comes to policy. So like Bernie thinks, well, I'm friends with Joe Biden. So that means that if I'm friends with him, then maybe I can get a little bit more pull with him than other people. Or AOC is, I called her mama bear on national TV. I might be able to have a little bit more pull with her when it comes to different policies. But that's the trick. They make you think that you're closer to them than they really are.
Mhm.
And so what happens is they think, oh well, all I got to do is, you know, align myself more with this person, and we can actually get these policies that we actually want because we're closer now. And the thing is that that's when Nancy Pelosi, people like Pelosi and Biden are like, these people actually think that they're that close to us. They have absolutely no idea. And the thing is in a sense, people like Bernie and AOC were in a sense being used by people like Pelosi and Biden. And the thing is that it worked. Biden's in the White House and Pelosi is still Mama Bear, right?
Yep.
So is there's this idea that in Washington you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. But the problem is you're surrounded by swamp monsters. So really, you just got to throw some vinegar on them and repel them in such a way where they absolutely have to acquiesce to you. Because trying to align with them, as we see, it just doesn't work.
I want to chime in with this, and I want to get Meganator in here as well, because there's there's a comment from my good friend, Mini Ninja Love. Um, this a little bit earlier, so I think she's discussing AOC here. You had to leverage her with public opinion, call her out on her own lies. She co-opted by her celebrity class. They don't care about us. They aren't empathetic. She was making videos with Chrissy Teigen and John Legend within months of getting within Congress. And that's that celebrity corruption as well. Cause once you start rubbing elbows, I mean, I listened to Get Lifted with John Legend. Me and John Legend, we had a Twitter argument back in the day. I talked about that before. I won't get into it now, but I don't allow that to change my opinion when I call you out for your politics. But I'm like, man, Get Lifted, a good damn album. I'm not gonna change my mind on that. But when you actually start meeting these people, I can easily see how then John Legend start talking to you like, "Hey man, I don't think maybe Elizabeth Warren not that bad," something like that. You know, like he can start rubbing your ear and and shifting your opinion, that kind of stuff. So that's a good comment. But I want to try and get Megan in here. I cut her off a little bit. What's your thoughts on before we move on?
No, I definitely agree with JB that it's very much a go along to get along type of situation. But it's actually very funny. I just started reading Lucky by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes about how Joe Biden won the presidency. And one of the things that they say very early on that I was like, it kind of surprised me was that Joe Biden was actually advising Bernie how to beat Hillary in the 2016 primary. He was telling him to go after her PAC donations. And I just thought that was so interesting because that really does kind of tell us a little bit more about the relationship between Bernie and Joe Biden, that maybe they were a little bit closer than we all had assumed um, before. So I thought that was
Actually,
really interesting.
I actually want to expand upon that because you actually
Mm-hmm.
unlocked something in my brain that I want to get out before I lose it. The interesting part, like even that book Lucky that just came out, it really talked about
Mm-hmm.
the dilemma between really in previous other books. It talked about the dilemma between Obama and Biden, and the
Mm-hmm.
difference is Obama is reminds see it's like the difference between JFK and Lyndon Johnson. JFK aristocrat, um, like Harvard, highly educated, the professional managerial class, like those
Mm-hmm.
type of people like Google and yada yada yada. And Biden and Bernie start kind of from like the same, beginning, like they
Working
kind of say,
class.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
same kind of like lower class in terms of, but in terms of how they govern now, Obama, he was like in the pocket of Google, Wall Street, yada, yada, yada. But Biden, he's in the pocket of like the old school way. So
Mm-hmm.
Obama was new school in the terms
Mm-hmm.
of just listed,
And
Biden
Biden
was
hated the
old
tech
school.
guys.
Yeah, Biden hated the tech guys. So Biden's more old school.
Mm-hmm.
He's, credit card companies, big pharma, oil, all the old barons. Was Obama, he's part of the new barons. And that's why Biden kind of despised Obama in that way. And also, too, I think Biden went after, that's why it was essential why he told Bernie to go after Hillary for PAC donations. And let's remind ourselves, Biden didn't really like Hillary. I mean, there's reasons why too. And of course, Biden. The reason why he didn't say anything publicly is, look, if I'm vice president, I'm going to shut the fuck up. Who cares? Until I leave and then I want to run myself, then I could be critical. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
So I thought Meg brought up a great point. That's what I wanted to add.
And man, we
Yeah.
have a lot of good comments in here. I apologize for you guys if I didn't get to all of them. Let's see if I can shift through some good ones here as well. Xander saying the left generally threatens power, which is different from corporate funding efforts that would not be tolerated within D.C. Well said. Well said. This is what I was saying earlier, the Orange Duke, and this is why I was warning people, and more people are catching on to this. The Justice Democrats prove electoralism doesn't work. That's I framed the issue from their point of view. I'm not being sympathetic to them. I'm just saying, even if I use your game plan and using your thought process, what you're doing is not effective because you're driving down support. But the same people that will donate to you and volunteering, these are the people who are in the thick of things, like the casual observer. These are the people who are more likely to be influenced by corporate news and mainstream propaganda. That you need the grassroots activists that are being upset by you right now to convince and flip. I mean, what I did for the Bernie campaign is pretty public. I know a lot of people work for the Bernie campaign and who donated to AOC, and a lot of squad members who said they're done. Not a good look for them. And let me. I think this is a good time to get into this as well because I wanted to discuss this. I want to discuss the story that dropped. I cover news in a lot of different sources because it's good to know what different people on the spectrum of the Overton window is talking about. So I will get my news from. I'll see what MSNBC is talking about sometimes. I love looking at independent news. I don't watch I never actually watch the cable news. I think it's unbearable. But I at least see what the print is, what they're talking about on the print side. And that's kind of what I cover a lot on my tweets as well. But this story, I know a lot of members of especially the right wing is having a good time on this. I'm gonna put this up on the screen here. I'll put it on the screen. I can describe it for you guys on the Zoom call. But this is the study that declared AOC as one
You
of
just
the
have to
most.
share your screen. That's all you have to do.
Here,
We can see it.
let me do skirt. Let me do that. Give me 1 second. So now you guys will
Yeah,
see
and
it, and now the
before
stream
you,
can see it.
yeah, before you start our next story, I want to talk about Kashama Sawan because someone in the comments wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, okay, we can bring. So we can do that. You want to do it after this story or?
After,
Okay, cool. All right, cool.
I'll send you the link to the
I
article.
haven't. I want to see. I would love to see what a lot of people's take on this is because I always see some people like, yeah, this is. We going hard on LC, but there's also kind of an establishment hit because they don't use our kind of logic here. The study declares LC one of the most effective members. That's why it's important to understand the context of where the story is being posted from, the New York Post, right? So you got. That's why I get my story from other point of view because you can still acknowledge what bias they're coming from. But as a libertarian socialist and as an anarchist and as someone of the left, I can provide my commentary on, and this is what I've been saying for a while, how you could mobilize and you can be more effective against the Democratic establishment and twist arms and have a different strategy in order to force these establishment Democrats to be more supportive of your plans because obviously your plan's not working. And that's what this is the take I have from the story coming from the left. I mean, when you look at your strategy is, we're going to influence the Democratic Party. We're going to get a lot of these progressive measure paths. We're going to shift the party to the left, even though there's many examples of the party actually shifting to the right. And Joe Biden is running a horrible foreign policy that's being just like Donald Trump. I digress on that. But the substance, what they attack her on this story here, I don't really like the framing here. And once again, we can drag LC, but we can also be fair here because They are attacking LC because she planned these bills to the floor, but these bills are really good progressive bills. I mean, so instead of attacking AOC the way they're doing and attacking her as an ineffective lawmaker because she can't get people in Washington to support these bills, that's more of an indictment of the Washington class. So I think there's nuance to be had on the story. So I think you can have those two criticisms. I think AOC could be more effective if she take a lot of the if she able to use the outside force of the left while
To
doing
make
her
a
job.
comment,
Go ahead, RJ. I'll let you
yeah.
you can go
So
chime in.
this kind of so everyone remember my spiel earlier about how like the Senate rules and the House rules have changed since the 90s. This is explicit right here. This is well, you could continue to screen share
All right, I'll
because
put
that
it
was
back up.
actually
Okay. Let me put
like
it
you didn't
back
have to
up.
take it off. Like that's what I'm saying. You were doing good. You can keep going. So
My
the
bad. I
whole
didn't know you was
point.
reading it, but go ahead, RJ. Go ahead. I got
Yeah, I
it for
was
you.
reading.
I got it
Yeah,
for
I
you.
was reading it. So so what she described here is this: is yes, it's great. She introduced the bill. Awesome job. Like we want this to happen. But here's the issue. Here's the rules how it goes. The committee chair, you have to get permission from the committee chair in order for it to go on the floor. The whole reason why Bernie was able to put the $15 minimum wage on the floor is because he's the budget chair. So he's already the chair of a committee. He can do that unilaterally. It's just that the Democrats and the Republicans agreed together, we don't want this shit. So what that's why there's so much pressure for AOC to go after Nancy Pelosi because she's the one who could tell the committee chair, "Hey, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to strip you of your money and your committee chairship." So that's why there's so much pressure to do so. It's not like the old days where the party leader, like I explained earlier, would make sure all the chairs are happy and all her caucus is happy, and then it'll go whatever majority rules. The party leader has so much power now. So that's basically what this article is showing is that yeah, it's great. It's great what she did introducing those bills on the floor, which is great. But there's a lot of roadblocks, and if you have to go to the biggest roadblock, which is Nancy Pelosi, in order to get that permission, because the committee chair is going to say, "Hey, look, sorry, sis, I'm not going to allow you to screw me up in my money game," and they're going to do what Mama Bear says, and it's not going to pass. So that leads to the question: is what is the strategy she's going to use? Because we know now that just putting it on the floor, which they did to us to shut us up about forced to vote, isn't working. But forced to vote, there was a strategy behind it. So you're only proving your adversary's right by being malicious and just throwing it on the floor without having a strategy to make it even worth effective. So that's kind of what I wanted to add there.
Mm-hmm. And kind of going off of that too is that's one of the reasons that David Sirota and Brianna Joy Gray, when they were talking about force to vote, one of the big asks that they said that force to vote should be making is get Richie Neal off of Ways and Means. That was one of the asks that they were
Yeah.
demanding. If they had done that, then maybe we would be seeing a little bit of progress. Because Richie Neal is a huge, huge barrier.
So
So it wasn't just Medicare for all, just so we all are clear about force to vote. There were many more asks that they were suggesting as well.
yeah, exactly. That's a great point because there are a lot of things they could have done that they just didn't do, and that's a criticism from the left and from the squad's left on how she's not an effective member. Instead of using the corporate talking points that you see in this article as well, but because it's you can make the argument that she's not being effective. I saw one comment that's saying that LC is a sheepdog, so it doesn't really matter what she does because it's not gonna be effective. So you can instead of getting upset at him, you got to ask yourself, what did the politician do to make someone believe that? So I'm never gonna get mad at someone for saying that. I'm like, I guess it's more reflection on LC and Squad. They gotta make sure they can win people who support the policies they do, public support, right? So they said looking at
Yeah.
the effectiveness of all the Democrats, LC ranked 230th out of 240. Among the 19 lawmakers in New York State, she ranked dead last. And this is another thing I don't
Keep the
understand their
screen
strat.
share up.
All right, I'll put this. I was
This is
shifting
how
it
we
what they
have
see.
great discussions when things pop off. That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay. I got a lot of things to work on. Let me put the screen share back on. But so you guys can see it, and then I'll put it on the screen for them. Okay. So this is what they were saying. This is where she's at 230 out 240, and now you have the reason why I don't understand her strategy, and that's why I was saying, is because AOC is trying to win the favor of the corporate Democrats and the establishment. Meanwhile, the story where she was giving money to corporate Democrats, they used that as a way to attack her, and that was kind of they were using that to drag her from the right. Where they was like, oh, these people don't. They just show how toxic AOC is on in terms of electability, because you see these centrist Democrats didn't want to take her money, so they used that and they turned it to attack at it. You had all these centrist Democrats that she would try to fundraise, which was the horrible thing that she tried to do, but they used that despite AOC's goodwill to attack her, and now they're using this story that I don't know why they want to cover that, but now they're using this to attack her. You said tweeting is easy. Let's see who said that. Said one. I think this is someone who didn't want to go on record. But tweeting is easy. Governing is hard. You need to have friends. You need to understand the committee process. You need to be willing to make sacrifices. Said one. Her first day in Congress, she decided to protest outside Nancy Pelosi's office. See, this is why I don't like the framing of the article.
That's a good thing.
I can attack LC, but their framing is off. So for one, what he said in the protest outside Nancy Pelosi's office, that's a good thing. Like Megan Ayers said, that's a good thing. So he mad at the good thing she did that is actually positive. And then the second thing is, and this is why I don't like the framing of this article in corporate news, because they are framing this as the rest of the Congress is doing an amazing job. Hey,
Exactly.
you idiot. Look at the approval rating of Congress. The approval rating of Congress has consistently been lower than the approval rating of Donald Trump.
But here's the thing, though. Not
Yeah,
to
go
cut
ahead,
you
RJ.
off, but the issue is look how it's affected the squad. The squad believes this shit now.
Yeah, they do.
They believe they're the
They
one.
do.
They believe that being divisive is bad.
They
So how does
do.
that help us? It doesn't help us a damn way. The whole point was to be divisive, to make a ruckus, to be the Tea Party of the left, to make noise and get shit done. So that's this article. This is why mainstream media is powerful. This is why manufacturing consent is real. This is why the media is the biggest tool of the oligarchy and the political elite class. Because you
Exactly,
can
man.
turn someone like AOC, who is a grassroots organizer, who is a true leftist, and you can corrupt her politically. I'm not saying she doesn't believe her politics is genuine, but politically you can co-opt her by doing this.
And the thing is, they're losing. That what this article is showing is because you see the media and the corporate Democrats, they are still attacking her. So
Mhm.
her plan and Bernie plans of being hands off. You see how much Hillary Clinton stands and how much the corporate Democrats still hate Bernie Sanders. Well, there was a story that came out a few weeks ago where they say if it came down between Bernie and Trump, they was like, I don't know what I would have done. They was like, fuck that. That's how much they hate Bernie. That's how much they hate
Mhm.
LC, and yet they still play the good guy for them.
Mhm.
So once again, you don't even have to agree. I attack these topics on multiple angles because you don't even have to agree with me, or you don't even have to be as far the left as I am to understand why these are just tactical blunders on their part. Because now
Mhm.
these people, like, you should be declaring war on these people that are attacking you right here.
Yeah.
Instead, you playing
And
nice. But go ahead, JB.
it's interesting that
I'm gonna
you
start with
actually
Faith for a
talk about
second.
the whole strategy and think about it. Okay,
I'm gonna
in
send you the link,
2020,
RJ. Sorry. Go ahead, JB.
that's okay. In 2022, when we have the midterms,
I'll send you the link.
okay, the whole force to vote strategy, win or lose, would have been a great thing for 2022 because even if we lose, now see, this is what you got people who are anti-force to vote and go, well, it's going to lose, and it's like, yeah, even if it loses, that's still a good thing because then you can use that information of the people who voted down for it in 2022 so that when you get somebody who's actually going to want to fight for it, you can have them primary the actual Democrats that didn't vote for it. So then when 24 happens, then guess what? You can, you can use that leverage to get Medicare for all or other different concessions. So it strikes me as wild. It's like nobody's
I'll be right
looking,
back.
yeah, nobody is looking ahead and saying, well, maybe we can just, you know, make it so that they have no choice to either move to the left or you replace them.
Mhm. Yeah, and going off of that is the same. You were saying maybe we should be primarying even AOC and Elon Homar and all that if they're not going to be effective.
Hmm.
Which is like just make sure, like just so you know, like yeah, we want to make sure the corporate Dems know that they're not safe, but you're not safe either.
Hmm.
Like there is no safety. You have to be doing your job. But one of the things I found most interesting about that article too, about the idea of how effective is AOC. Okay, but effective at doing what? Like it's just the same as the critique of Bernie Sanders, like, oh, Bernie's never done anything in his 40 years of, you know, being in different offices. Like, he's called the Amendment King for a reason. It's just what type of bills are we talking about when we're saying how effective are they? Are they effective at getting just any bill passed? Because if we're talking about just any bill, does that mean, tax breaks for wealthy billionaires? Is that being effective? Like, what are we talking about when we say effective?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I think just to add to your point, Meg, what Bernie has done great, and I'm glad you mentioned he's the Amendment King. See, what Bernie is able to do is he's able to turn a shitty bill
Mm-hmm.
less shitty by adding something good for the American people on it. And
Yeah.
so yes,
Mm-hmm.
even on his record, there are some bad votes he's had,
Mm-hmm.
but at least he put an amendment that was good that would have helped some people in the future. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if she can just, kind of learn from Bernie in that aspect, then of course, then, and also be able to use her popularity to push forward some of these different types of bills that would help and improve the material conditions of all Americans, then number one, she wouldn't have to worry about her viability. Um, and number two, when we have new people who are coming up, her popularity would be so that it would, help them even more to win so that she has more colleagues that are progressive beside her to help, force the vote on other different pieces of legislation that would help us further,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, and
I,
maybe if she's too scared or whatever to be, the face of the squad, like maybe we do need a Nina Turner who can be a bit of a firebrand and actually be a leader who can say, "Hey, you know what? No, this is the time. We need to get together and we need to fight back." We do. I don't know if Nina Turner will be that or not, but
yeah,
I'd love to see Nina do that.
yeah, I think too Nina's campaign so far, she's been endorsed by AOC. A lot of the top
Mm-hmm.
progressives have endorsed her. I've heard some people say they have disagreements with Nina, especially because of the forced to vote scenario. Like she wasn't like full deep for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's put her politician hat on. That let's just say that. So it's been kind of hard for some lefties to want to go full out for her. And don't get me wrong, Nina Turner is a great person, a great grassroots organizer, one of the strongest allies Bernie has ever had, and for the left in general. It's
Mhm.
just it's hard because I think the left we're so traumatized with seeing our allies go into office and get completely run over by the Democratic Party that the next one that comes around, we're either hesitant or we're just skeptical. And look, to be honest, yes, it's warranted. Yes, we have that right to feel that way. But should we give? I say we give Nina a chance until she proves us right. If she proves us
Mm-hmm.
wrong, then wow, we can go full on in. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to use the term "give her a chance" because I'll get canceled on the left. But let her reveal herself to us before we automatically cancel her. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
she did some good work in the state of Ohio, especially during the Obama era, which, as Lord knows, was hard, especially
Mm-hmm.
state level, because Democrats got fucking wiped out. So her work with, I don't know, I believe, who was the guy who was murdered by cops in Ohio? Was it Freddie Gray? I know it was somebody, but she worked with
Tamir
John.
Rice.
Tamir Rice, thank you, Tamir Rice. I should know that, but Tamir Rice, in the state of Ohio, she worked with John Kasich, to get justice for that family. So her track record with working with, regardless if it's establishment Dems or establishment Republicans, to get leftist ideals passed, I think is pretty good. But my whole entire caveat is this: rock with her until she proves us right in terms of progressives in the Democratic Party is bad. And if she proves us wrong, then we continue to stick with her. That's just my personal opinion.
Exactly.
I always tell people, you gotta understand that no one owes any politician anything, and I when you see progressive politicians completely ignore the popular support of the grassroots and not do just basic asks, it makes it harder for the next wave of progressives to be elected. So I don't think anyone should shame anyone who support Nina Turner. So if you're one of the people that say, "Oh, give Nina Turner a chance," I don't think that's even bad to say. But so if you're one of the people that just attack leftists for supporting Nina Turner, I don't think you're on the right either. But they're also, when you see politicians constantly disappoint, you can't blame people when they decide like, okay, I'm opting out. Like I'm not gonna donate, I'm not gonna campaign, I'm not gonna volunteer. Now my position is, if you're in the district and you got a corporate Democrat and Nina Turner's running, you don't vote for them, vote for her over the corporate Democrat. Okay, you're being a little foolish. That's why I think that's why I think I outflank people from the right on. If I had, once again, I would have voted for Cori Bush if she was in my district. I got criticism of Cori Bush. Because Medicare for all, and when it comes to actual policy, I'm strict on that, and I'm a policy-based voter. So I can't see myself I can't see myself not voting for someone who support Medicare for all, unless they are complicit with like something else that crosses my litmus test. Like I have other things like you can't be complicit with. You can't be complicit with the prison industrial complex, U.S. imperialism. So if you're complicit with war crimes, that kind of stuff, maybe that can disqualify you. But if you're a candidate who's running on Medicare for all, I'm just speaking personally. I'm not telling anyone what they should do, but personally, I would support Cori Bush if she was in my book. If she ran against Josh Hawley for Senate, and if you're in Missouri, and if you're left of center and you want to support that race, I think you're being foolish a little bit. But and then from that point on, criticize the shit. Even during the campaign, criticize shit. Like even while the campaign, speak your truth about Cori Bush. Man, I even said that during the campaign, and I'll let JB chime in. I think you had something to say. I told people I didn't like the progressive strategy because I said even if I was even if I voted for Joe Biden, which I did, I voted Green Party. Even if that was the decision I make, I still would. My rhetoric wouldn't have changed. Like I still would have tweeted the same shit I did. But then when election day came, I just would cast my vote and just moved on because it's just electoral politics. I didn't understand the progressives who were like, "Hey guys, I'm voting for Joe Biden." Like, what are you doing? Do you want someone to pat you on the back? Do you want to resist Twitter to follow you in mass? Like when people was doing that, I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing. I didn't understand that. So that's my position. And I was like, I think I'm a little bit to the right. Some people just say fuck electoral politics altogether. Where I'm like, well, my position is I don't put too much stock in it. But if I have a chance, I would cast a vote because it's just a vote. Like it's not that big. Like it's not a fucking big deal to me. But go ahead, JB.
No, it's just I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I also have to go because I have another interview that I
sounds
have
good.
to.
We about hour and a
Yeah.
half in, so we can take some more comments for the last 10 minutes, and we can wrap up if you want, RJ.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think hour and a
So,
half is good for this show. But thank you for coming on,
yeah.
JB.
yeah. Good luck, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, thanks.
Peace out.
Bye,
Thanks for coming
Jay.
on.
Bye.
So yeah, we wrap it up in the next 10 minutes. I think you sent me a story, RJ. Do you want to take point on this? I can put it on the because I haven't followed this much. Do you have any you want to lead on commentary on the story?
No, we can save that for another time because
Okay.
that takes a while to
Yeah,
go
okay.
through.
So let's see. You want to go through some comments here? Because once again, we can wrap
Yeah.
up here in the next 10 minutes or so. Because I really appreciate the engagement, guys. And if you enjoyed the conversation, I appreciate the support we received the first 3 days since the launch of the Frederick Hampton Leftists podcast. But it's important to subscribe and hit the bell as well because there have been a lot of reporting. I mean, even on the biggest channels are being hurt by YouTube. So if the biggest channels are being hurt by YouTube, imagine what's happened to us. So that's my plea. That's my plea. So hopefully you guys are enjoying. Anything that I went on a long spiel earlier. Anything that you guys want to discuss, Meg, RJ? I'm gonna see if I can find a breaking story. Cause usually when I have my streams, near the end, that's the time where I can kind of just find what happened while we was live because I ain't following anything new for like the last 2-3 hours. So we can kind of just shoot the shit for the last 10 minutes, take any questions or anything like that. So
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about, pressuring our Congress people, and we should also be pressuring, the organizations that prop them up too and get them elected, like Justice Democrats, our revolution, and a brand new Congress. We should be pressuring them too to be in the right because we were talking earlier right before the show started. RJ and I were about Paula Jean Swearingen and how she's now calling out AOC and calling out Brand New Congress and how she's no longer affiliated with Brand New Congress because of all the shenanigans that they were doing. So if Paula Jean is saying I'm not supporting them anymore, then what the hell are the rest of us doing? If we're still supporting them, we should be calling them out and making sure that they get back in line. Like, why is Justice Democrats supporting Nero Tandon? We should be
exactly,
calling them out just as much as
it's
we're
a
calling
legit
out the Congress
criticism.
people that they get elected.
Yeah, I think the reason why is because, look, Alexandria Rojas is a nice person, I'm pretty sure. But even
I'm
during
sure
when
she
she
is too.
was, even I have to say that, so I don't, well, but the whole point of like my argument is like during the Bernie campaign, she received a lot of visceral, unfair hatred from
Mm-hmm.
the CNN panel. Like a lot of times I was rooting for her, like, yeah, you go,
Mm-hmm.
girl, like fucking kick their
Mm-hmm.
ass because they were making so many bad faith arguments about Medicare for all, about Bernie, about progressives in general. I was just lucky at the time that she even got to sit at the table. Because you know how, like, they had Terry McCauley, they had Dana Bash, they had, what's his name, Jake Tapper, all these, like, CNN heads. And the point I'm making is my biggest fear with her is that she feels she wants friends so much the
Mm-hmm.
same
She'll
way.
internalize it.
Exactly. So she'll want to make sure that, okay, my people hate her, but if we could turn some we hate, use them to get our progressive policies in line, then maybe I can have a friend in the future. But the problem is it's not mutual. If you're working with a politician and you have mutual concerns where like on both ends you guys could work together, then that works well. Like for instance, Bernie, he never really uses social media. He has someone else do that for him. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times when he makes deals with a Republican like Mike Lee on foreign policy, Mike Lee's like, look, I don't want to be in public because I'm too cancerous. I don't want to deal with that bullshit. Bernie's like, okay, look, I don't fucking use social media. I don't use it either. We work together, and they get shit done. But the problem with progressives is you're internalizing the strategy and it's not mutual on the other side you want to work with. So that's how we get crushed.
Mm-hmm. And the same is even true with Bernie, is that Bernie does internalize a lot of the criticisms against him. He definitely
He
internalized
embraces
the
it.
idea of, but he didn't internalize a lot of like the criticisms of him and of blaming him for Hillary's loss.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to be seen as a Ralph Nader. But he internalized a lot of that, and you could see that in 2020.
But the thing is, it took 40 years for the establishment to find his weakness. 40
That
years.
is
It
true.
took 2 years to find AOC's. So let's just say that.
Damn, that's a powerful
But
Yeah,
statement.
I mean she's young and she is very malleable,
yeah, but
and
the thing is
she's naive too.
but traditionally in
Mm-hmm.
politics, the younger you are, the braver and the more courageous and
That's
the more
true.
rambunctious you are. Like look at the right. Like some of these people, they're fucking crazy, and we can't find their weakness yet. But it's amazing with AOC. It's that quick.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big stories now that I'm talking about the right is what the right I've seen because I follow some righty accounts just for Oppo research. Don't cancel me. All purely Oppo research. This is why I do
I think
this.
you should get your news
Um.
sources from a lot of different things. That's what I do. That's why I do. That's why I'm
Okay.
able to
Good.
attack people's narrative. But go ahead,
Okay.
RJ. That's
Yeah.
why I
So
stand.
thank you for that. So the reason why I say that is what's going on with the right now is the MLB, Delta Airlines, some of these corporations in Georgia, Coca-Cola Company, by the way, all conservative companies because their base is using them. They're all objecting to Georgia's
And
new.
yeah, the new voting law.
Thank you, thanks, Meg. So they're all objecting to that, right? And they've publicly said so. Like the MLB has said, hey, we're going to move our All Star game out of Atlanta and move it somewhere else. And so the right now, this is what they want to do. This is how powerful and scary the right is. What the right wants to do now is, okay, we're going to remove your tax exemption from the MLB and from some of these corporations that do this, that go against that go against us for our certification laws. And the second big thing is what they're doing with the MLB is this. This is scary. So apparently some corporations have an antitrust exemption in the law. So MLB, the NFL, some of these big corporations, they are immune from antitrust regulations and to be broken up. So what the right is saying is the MLB, for you removing your All-Star game from the state of Georgia, a lot of the Republican Congress people, they are going to remove that antitrust exemption from the MLB. That's what they're threatening. Do you see
Wow.
progressives like
Wow.
finding shit like this? Like, this is what scares
That's
me
a good
about the
point.
right. This is why Trump scares me. See, Trump himself is a fucking idiot, so he would never get it done. But the reason why Republicans are so powerful is they find rinky-dink tidbits in laws and use them to their advantage. Like, for instance, like with Trump with the insurrection. Like, how the fuck do you think Trump knows about the 1890 something Insurrection Act or whatever? He doesn't. The Republican Party is very good with that. The problem with progressives is we have to find that same strategy of finding little pinholes and exploding it to our advantage, and that's what's trending right now with in general with the right.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate thing that corporate Dems are very good at, of hiding behind, like the parliamentarian. Like, wait, where did the
Exactly.
parliamentarian come from?
I'm gonna cover this story. I think when I'm with Jackie and with Graham Elwood, but the corporate Democrats, they already once again flexing their power again on Joe Biden's
Mm,
infrastructure bill. Cause there are a lot of provisions in the bill they disagree with, even though the infrastructure bill is a joke. Biden promised 7 trillion, guys. Once again, another failed campaign. He promised 7 trillion. I think this one's 2.5 trillion. He's pitching this bill as the climate answer. He said, "Guys, this is my answer on climate change. Good to go." Climate activists like you promised to cut carbon emissions by 50%. This is not gonna get anywhere near that number. And it's funded by a lot of gimmicky corporate subsidies. So I looked into this. So I wanted to cover this more formally. Um, but he pushing this as like, okay, this is a good thing. I'm like, nah, no, it's not. No, it's not. And this,
not nearly good enough.
yeah. Anyway, I appreciate. I wanted to give a shout out to Susan Jacobson, Fred Hampton Leftists is my favorite podcast. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you. We appreciate the comment. I appreciate everyone who's been watching so far. I know there was a discussion on first to vote. Um, I give Juice some props though because she's I saw her on the other stream. She wanted to engage, and to say the least. So anyway, I appreciate all you guys for watching. I appreciate the engagement. Do you guys anything? You have anything you guys want to add on? But most important thing, please support us. Subscribe. We uploading content daily. I mean, we decided to just do a casual political chat today. Um, I know a lot of you guys that are a friend of my show and follow my content. Know Jackie. We are doing our show on Tuesday, and that's gonna be very exciting. Our first guest is someone I've been watching, and for a while, and I'm very excited to actually talk to him. We've been following each other on Twitter for a while, Graham Elwood, and so I think that's
Nice.
gonna be a banger episode. So that's gonna be on Tuesday. We got a lot of different content. What's going on? What's going on this hour? I think Rome has something planned today as well. But you know anything else coming on? RJ, do you want to plug?
Um, I can actually just look at the schedule really quick now that I have it. But personally, Rome, he has mostly pre-recorded content, so you'll see that in random times of the day. As for next week, um, oh yeah, next week we'll have on my show on Friday, we'll have Margaret Kimberly on. She's really nice. She's from the Black Agenda Report.
Yeah, I'll be
We'll
with you as
also
well.
have an interview with Jordan Sheraton. It'll be after our live stream show, but it's going to be pre-recorded as well. I think JB Fine, he's going to have either Chris Richards or Alan Max Axelrod as an interview. And then I know on the Jackie show on Monday, she's going to have the Queen herself, Ashley Stevenson. So we have a lot of good
Nice.
people coming on FHL. So make
We
sure
got
to
a
stay
lot.
tuned, stay subscribed, and we appreciate any donations you can give to better our production to keep things smoothly for you guys.
I'm looking forward to seeing all of that.
What can they follow you at, Meg? I think you
You
got it
can
up
follow
there,
me,
right? Killjoy Meg,
yeah, Killjoy Meg on Twitter.
friend of the show. Follow her. She always has a good discussion. I think I'm gonna have my friend Anthony Clark on the show as well. He hit me up, so stay tuned. We got a lot of good guests lined up and a lot of good things that we plan to produce. So I got the Patreon link in the chat. Fred Hampton Leftists. We appreciate any support we can get. Once again, thank you guys for watching. This is Nick, the progressive martial artist, my friend RJ, Killjoy Meg, signing off. Peace out.